Hey guys, in this video I wanted to give you a little bit of a brief update on how prep is going, how I'm feeling, all that good stuff. So you're seeing weeks 6 and 5 training footage. Just kind of a smorgasbord of what I had, no real structure. I'm just kind of recording what I'm doing more for like a general training log, keep you guys in the loop of like what's going on, how I'm progressing and whatnot. And I want to say that honestly, things have been going pretty freaking phenomenal for the circumstances. I recently had my grandfather pass away. I've been dealing with a lot of social and emotional stress with that. Business end things have been picking up with coaching and programming, so I'm spending a lot of time with that, making sure that my clients are being taken care of. But outside of that, my training has probably been going the best it has in a long time in terms of strength progress, and a lot of that is simply just because I'm actually eating enough. And this is something that I don't think that people actually understand until they've been in a spot where they haven't been eating enough for a while. And somebody like me who doesn't do a very good job, admittedly, of eating enough calories consistently for my body weight and to actually, gain some weight, which I'm still struggling with. That's something I need to work on. I'm still just 175 pounds. But just I can say that with an degree of absolute certainty, if you want to make strength progress and really make legitimate progress in any way, shape, or form, you have to pay attention to your nutrition. You have to make sure that you're getting in at least 3 protein feedings per day, enough calories. Whether or not that's carbs or fats that make up the difference beyond the 1 gram of protein per body weight, which you should be consuming, doesn't really matter. I bias carbohydrates as opposed to fat for several reasons, but the main one being that carbohydrates have the most direct effect on weight training since they are glycolytic, and that is what the weight training is most like, is short-lived, high intensity. But setting all-time PRs in terms of exertion, ability PRs, being able to repeat loads, and something that I've been doing differently this prep than I have in past training cycles and whatnot that's working really, really well is I'm focusing much more on personalizing my own volume to the lifts and really being honest with myself about RPEs, how things are really feeling, instead of feeling like I have to push a number on whatever day, even though that I know that's pushing me above my RPE cap for that day. So for example, what I'm doing right now is something called a fatigue drop, which I'll elaborate on a little bit later on in this video, but it's essentially a way of personalizing top end intensity to make sure that you are getting in enough volume and enough intensity stimulus for that lift, because each lift should be individualized to your capacities and what you need to actually drive adaptations. It doesn't make any sense for me to give one lifter the same amount of top sets and then back off work when we all have different responses to training. On average, we know that bench press is less fatiguing than squat, and squat is less fatiguing than deadlift, and deadlifts tend to be the most fatiguing for some reasons that are not as well elucidated, but it's likely just due to the fact that, one, you're actually gripping the bar, and that is going to have more nerve uh, impulses firing because the hands have a lot of innervations, as well as having to generate a lot of torque to just move a lot of weight all at once. There's not a stretch shortening cycle like there is on a bench press and a squat. But anyways, using these fatigue drops has really helped me personalize my training a lot better. And I don't come to the gym with really any expectations. I have a plan A and a plan B, and I focus on doing things right. And something that I've just really learned is that if you do things right, and if you take what your body has and the RPEs that you're given, and you don't try to force progress, you train properly, you are patient and consistent, PRs will come when you're ready. What happens when you consistently try to overshoot or do what you think that you should do on any given training day, and you're just overshooting your RPEs because of your ego, wanting to say, oh, well, I did more than last time, you end up in this vortex of fatigue, and you're never really ever going to be able to progress. You're creating too much stress relative to the stimulus. And I made a post about this on my Instagram story, but most of your work should be done within an RPE of 5 to 8 for your volume work, with limited exposure to sets above with an RPE 9 to 10, simply just due to the fact that your strength stimulus relative to the fatigue generated above an RPE 8 is disproportionately high, and therefore should only be limited to brief exposures such as overreaching before a deload week or a light session proactively planned to pay that fatigue debt. Training doesn't happen in a vacuum, and PRs will come when you do things right and when you have attached your ego to doing things right and not trying to convince yourself that you're strong to stroke your own ego. And this is something, and you have to always remind yourself too. In the case of powerlifting prep, and if you are going through one right now, on meet day, all you can do is work with what you have. You can prepare the best that you possibly can, but you should plan to go for 9 for 9 and work with what your body has instead of what your ego tells you that you should be able to do. So honestly, I'm riding the wave right now. Things have been going very, very well with training. I'm feeling strong. Nutrition's more on point. Getting my calories back up, fueling my body, and things are finally feeling good. I'm really enjoying my training. So in the next clip, I'm going to talk a little bit about what fatigue percents are and what I'm doing, and how this has kind of affected my training as a whole, as well as the overall strategies and things I've just learned from it myself. So I hope that you guys enjoy that next part of the video. Guys, so to end out this video, I wanted to go over what I mean fatigue drops. And this is kind of what I am doing for my programming with squat, bench, and deadlift. And this has really helped me understand how much stress I can really take for each lift at the top end intensity, as well as how much I really just need to drive adaptations based off of the degree that I fatigue on average per set. So essentially the whole concept of what a fatigue drop is you're going to take a prescribed number of total sets and a specific RPE. So, for example, down here for the bench press, I have 1 by 3 at RPE 8. You're going to basically take that. Let's say you have a low drop from that top set, 8%, and you're going to do as many sets until you hit an RPE goal of RPE 8, and then after that will be your top end intensity. And then you're going to lower load down by 6% in this example with 3 reps until you complete the total set goal. So let's say I have 4 total volume sets prescribed for that day, and so that basically means that I'm going to do as many of these top sets as I need until I hit this RPE top end stop. And then once I do that, I'm going to lower down the weight to then get in more volume and more strength practice. And so some of the pros of this method are as right here. So we're going to auto-regulate the volume directed towards top end intensity, ensure sufficient volume for strength practice, and have appropriate stress for training session. It also will account for the degree of readiness, which is just going to be the relationship between fitness and fatigue. So fitness will be basically, you have a high level of fitness. That's going to be, your ability to lift heavy weights in the case of powerlifter. Fatigue is going to be fatigue from everything in your life, any sort of stress, whatever. And because you're not fixed, and because you're kind of moving variables, there's several things that can happen on a week-to-week basis that are going to, affect how you're going to be for each session. You're going to be able to account for this at the top end. And a general trend that you're going to find as you keep doing this is for each one of these lifts, how many top end sets can I actually do until I have to drop down load. And so this is why one of the things, if we go over here, look at the average fatigue per set per lift, this is just working average that I found per each lift, just based off of how much they fatigue. And in order of fatigue, deadlift is going to be the most fatiguing, but it's followed by squat, and then bench will be the least fatiguing. Basically, this has a lot to do with the loads, range of motion, the general nature of the lift. Squat and bench have a shortening cycle. Deadlift does not. So that means that you're going to have a larger neural impulse to just move the weight off the floor. Won't be able to rely on non-contractile factors in your muscles and whatnot to move the weight. As a general rule of thumb, 1 RPE is going to be about 3% load. So on squat, this is just what I found. So and bench and deadlift, and you can program this in accordingly with each lift. When you're programming in, how much of a low drop that you want to have. Um, but this will also tell you how much top end intensity that each lift can handle. And I found that bench press typically can handle more top end intensity. Squat is going to be in the middle, and deadlift can't have as much, and typically it operates better at lower intensities. But some cons of this system are going to be you're going to have to be really good at judging RPE and familiar with the system. So this is not something that I'm going to be, I talk about this right here. It's not something I'm going to be programming in for everybody just because you need to be really, really familiar with it. But the good news is that the more that you do this, the more you'll be able to understand how much, how stressful each lift is for you, how this changes across each training block. You can auto-regulate your volume, and then, over time, you can use data from this fatigue drop method to program in basically proactively, because you know how much you fatigue on each lift, how you respond to top end intensity, and how much back off work that you need, and also how much you need to back off. So these are just a few examples of how I would do it. But I wanted to just address this really fast because this is something I've been doing really recently for myself during my prep and the strength block. That's been just really helped me see really great progress. And here's the RPEs that I have programmed in.